Hey, how's it going, guys? Today I want to do a quick video on my experience switching over to a glass mouse pad and also kind of my expectations going into it and why I wanted to switch to a glass mouse pad. So let's get into it. So I want to start off with some background. So the pad I was using before is the Razer Strider. A lot of people compare it to a Hien Mid, but I've never used an artisan pad, so I can't really speak on that. But it is a hybrid surface that is very textured with a pretty firm base that is, I believe, 3 millimeters. And because it's so firm, it's very easy to get very consistent movement out of this. A lot of people do like to press their mouse in to get a little bit slower movement. I unfortunately can't wrap my brain around that. I just can't do it for whatever reason. So going with something that's a bit more firm really works for me. Another pad I was using is the Lethal Gaming Gear Venus, and this is also a hybrid surface. It is a lot softer and it's also less abrasive, but I ended up not liking this that much because in comparison to the Strider, it felt extremely slow. And while for the games I mainly play, like Counter-Strike, Valorant, those kinds of games, more control is generally appreciated. It's not really the direction I wanted to go with my mouse pads. So I was basically maining the Razer Strider for about a year and a half consistently. And while I really like this pad, there were a couple things that I didn't really like about this pad. So the big one is that it really caught onto my skin a lot, like it pulled a lot of skin cells and whatnot. Like this pad gets dirty very fast for me. So I found myself cleaning it about once a week, or else it would start feeling different, like mousing around on here. So because of that, I ended up having to wash this once a week. Not a big fan of that. I don't think I should have to do that. Of course, it's nice to clean your mouse pad when you can, but having to clean this so often was a bit of a drawback for me. Now, some people might say with hybrid surfaces, you can clean them very quickly, but I still found that the pads were dirty after doing things like just giving them a quick wipe down with like a wet cloth or something like that. That didn't really work for me, so I ended up going the more traditional route with cloth pads where you actually give this a scrub, and that worked great. It did tug a little bit, but the surface still feels the same, so I'm not really worried about it. But having to clean this so often was a bit of a and especially when it gets to a point where the surface feels different, that's when I'm kind of like, don't really want that. So yes, switching to a glass pad was out of sheer laziness. Whatever, I also wanted to try a glass pad, so there it be. So now let's switch over to the glass pad. This is the Kanami Sai with art from Wataboku. Unfortunately, this is sold out already. It was limited to 1,000 pieces. I got number 33. And this pad does have a slight texture to it. It's like lightly frosted. So it does have some texture. It does offer some control, which I was surprised by because I haven't really used hard surfaces. The last time I used a hard surface was at a friend's house, and he had a Razer Vespula, the one that you could flip over and it had a weird wrist rest thing. That I used when I was over at his place, but after that, didn't really bother with hard surfaces. I also did try Super Glide skates on my G303 Shroud, and that was wild. It was uncontrollable. I couldn't stop and click things. So I was a little concerned when switching over to this pad, but honestly, if I didn't like the pad, I would have stuck to my Razer Strider and held on to this as like an art piece because I think it is very cool. But luckily, with the Pulsar X2 V2 with Corepad Skates, it wasn't all that fast. It was just a little bit faster than the Razer Strider, and it was plenty easy to control. It definitely took some more effort. Like if I was casually mousing around on the corner of the pad without the rest of my arm resting on it, it was definitely a little more difficult. But whenever I'm gaming or have my arm on the pad like this, it wasn't an issue at all. I think part of why using this pad is so easy is because this mouse is quite light, and to kind of demonstrate that, I have my G303 Shroud, which is a much heavier mouse with Corepad Skates on. These are pretty fresh as well, and these definitely carry like a lot of momentum. It feels kind of glidey, floaty kind of feeling. So I don't think I would really use this on this pad. It's definitely doable, but I just don't think this is the feeling that I want, where it's exceptionally like floaty, glidey kind of feeling that you get from glass. On my Pulsar X2 V2 Mini, I do have the Wallhack Xraypad dots, and I wanted to give these a try out because these are skates primarily made for glass, and a lot of people mentioned that they're quite controlled, but I was thinking, how controlled can glass really feel? And so I wanted to try them out. Upon trying them out, they are very controlled. This is pretty much on par with using the Strider with Corepad Skates on, albeit minor differences, but I'd say they're quite comparable. So I was very surprised, and it's made control over this mouse, even when I'm being very lazy with things, a lot easier. Now, some people have said that these skates tend to be a bit loud, and I do tend to agree with that. They are a bit louder than traditional skates, but I wouldn't say it's significantly louder. Like, I don't think it would bother people when they're playing games, unless if they have like crumbs and stuff on their desk, which then obviously that's a bit of an issue. But let's do a quick sound test. So the Wallhack Xraypad dots are definitely louder, but I wouldn't say it's to a significant degree. I don't think it's that big of an issue, right? If you're making a lot of small adjustments, you barely hear it. So I don't think it's as big of an issue as some people make it out to be, but it is definitely louder. So yeah, that's going to be my experience switching over to a glass pad. It was super easy because this surface is not as fast as I expected, and these skates help with that as well, so it's not that big of a difference from the setup I was using before. I've been playing a lot of CS and Valorant on this setup, and I've never really felt like this has been holding me back at all. If anything, it's made me think a bit more consciously about how I'm aiming to improve as a player, but at that point it's more like things going on in my brain. The transition over to this was pretty seamless, and I was playing up to my normal skill level within about a couple hours at most. But yeah, that's going to be it for this video. As always, if you have any questions about anything mentioned in this video, just let me know down in the comments below, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. I do want to be very clear that I'm not a mouse person. I do like mice, and I do like mouse pads, but I'm not someone who's used an extensive amount of these. I've primarily just used the Razer Strider and Lethal Gaming Gear Venus, and now the Kanami Sai. But yeah, that's going to be it. Thanks for watching, guys, and until next time, goodbye!